when you minister and lead somebody to Christ, you're winning a soul. That's way more satisfying. God wanted to use the gift he gave you to spread the gospel. And I think that's what he's created us all for. He gifted us for a purpose. This is my mantra. He's gifted us for a purpose to serve others. That's why he's gifted us in all these arenas and everything that we do. When we eventually come to know who Christ is, then that gift will make room for us to spread the gospel.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sowers Podcast. My name is Matt Naismith, and I am your host. On this podcast, we share stories from church planters and leaders who are influencing kingdom movement and impacting their communities. Whether you're a church planter, a pastor in a church, part of a church planting team, or just curious to learn more, our hope is that these conversations inspire you to be a sower in the places where you live, work, learn, and play. If this podcast blesses you, we'd love for you to share episodes and subscribe on your preferred platform. Now, let's dive into our next conversation. Welcome, friends, to the Sowers Podcast. Thanks for joining us for this episode and this conversation, however you're listening and wherever you may be. As always, please be sure to hit subscribe or follow on whatever platform you are using. And also, if these episodes have been an encouragement to you, or if this is you listening for a very first time, why not go ahead and share this upcoming conversation, or one, if you're a returner, that you've listened to in the past. Well, I'm excited for you to hear a conversation that I had with Anthony Lee Jr. Anthony is a Christian rap artist and professional basketball player who's competed internationally for the past 10 years, currently playing for the KW Titans. His passion for Christ and purpose-driven living has impacted people across North America, inspiring them to recognize they are more than their job, title, or stage of life. As a pastor's kid, Anthony has been deeply involved in ministry since childhood, developing his gifts in music, communication, and leadership. Through his music, speaking, and example as a Christian athlete, he empowers individuals to live boldly in their faith without compromising their gifts or morals. His mission is to reach both the lost and the found, helping them see God's calling on their lives so they can walk in purpose and in truth. In this episode, in this conversation, Anthony shares his journey as a professional athlete, navigating the tension between faith and the competitive world of basketball. He reflects on his upbringing in a faith-filled home, the challenges of college basketball, and how God redirected his path from the NBA to a greater calling in ministry and music. Anthony also discusses the impact of the NIL on college athletes, the struggles of staying true to Christ in a performance-driven culture, and how he now uses his platform to inspire and equip others to walk in their God-given purpose. I think you're going to be inspired, equipped, and empowered. And so without further ado, here is my conversation with Anthony. Well, Anthony, a very special welcome to the Sowers Podcast. It's great to have you with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
Anthony, I'd love for you to jump in, sharing with us a bit about your story and your background as a pro athlete, and then how your faith has shaped and impacted your life both on and off the basketball court.
All right, man. Where do I begin? I guess I'll just start by saying that, man, I grew up in Maryland with two great parents, pastors, had three sisters. I'm the oldest as well.
Okay.
So, I had a lot of responsibility, just being an example and being a big brother. And I got started in basketball very early. Michael Jordan was my dad's favorite player. And when I hit 2-3 years old, I had the Fisher Price and I was doing the same. So I loved basketball then. My parents being pastors, I was a church boy, grew up in church, started playing the drums as well around 2 or 3, and started, just understanding who God was at a very early age. And so I grew up in that whole atmosphere, and it was good for me. Just growing up around, like-minded people that are believers, being involved in, children's church, the youth ministry. So I've always had great experiences about who God was and what he can do and just understanding who he is, right? So there just came a point as I started growing up, where I was, very involved in church, but I was trying to just really find my way, within, my peers and with playing sports, try to balance the two, balancing my faith and trying to still relate and be cool and all of that type of stuff. So the basketball scene is where a lot of things started to happen for me as I was growing up. And because of that, it put me in a lot of different environments. I played on a lot of travel AAU teams in Maryland, and I started to get really, really good. And alongside all of that, I was also doing music. So it's just kind of funny, I know we'll get to it later on the podcast, but everything that I'm doing now is what I was doing back then.
Hmm.
And it was on just a very basic level. So when I started getting good at basketball, my parents just decided that okay, let's take it seriously and let's make a move. So we moved from Maryland to Florida when I was around 16. And once that happened, a lot of doors opened up for me because Maryland area was very saturated. Around
Okay.
my era, 2006, 2007, a lot of great NBA players came around. So anybody that likes basketball, Kevin Durant, Michael Beasley, uh, so many others I could name. I was around that era. So moving to Florida gave me the ability to really hone in on my skills, but be like a big fish in a small pond. So things were able to blow up for me. But with that, again, um, I was so aware of what God was trying to do in my life and using basketball as a tool. And, I had my struggles and things that was coming, my way. And I had to just really figure out, how to focus in and try to accomplish some of my goals. And I was to go D1, right?
Hmm.
So I went from one year having zero scholarships to going into my senior year. I had about 50 to 60 scholarship offers. And, and I just really trusted God in that. I knew I wasn't participating in a lot of um, school functions and activities that, most kids would want to be a part of, like going to parties
Hmm.
and just hanging out and doing stuff like that. One, because my parents wasn't taking that. They
Hmm.
trying to keep me, under a good hub and protection, right? But then two, I realized let me just focus and try to, make sure I could reach this goal. And so it paid off by those things happening with the scholarships. And I eventually went off to Temple University, but that's where everything changed for me. And so I can say, that's really where the story begins and just my faith journey, because now, once I got to college, I have really had to know God for myself. I've been
Hmm.
baptized. I've seen God do great things in my life. I
Yeah.
knew how good he was, but when I got to college is really when my faith got tested and I had to really, figure out if I was going to live for him or not.
And so tell us a little bit about that journey and that process. Was there a moment? Was it a period of time where you're really like, okay, God, I had this faith of my background growing up, but now, okay, I'm really going to commit my life to following you wholeheartedly.
Man, so it was, as I think about it now and as I reflect, I realized that I was still a baby Christian. I was immature. Although I grew up in church, I had parents that were pastors. I was sheltered, and
Mm.
that could be good and it could be bad depending on how you look at it. Because I had made sure I was always around believers and young people that were like me, that could relate to me. Like I didn't have to deal with getting in arguments or battling with people that didn't understand the walk, right? Like I didn't have to worry about that. So when I got to college, now I'm on my own, right? You gotta now find your group. You gotta find your niche. And playing basketball like that, I was like a 3, 4 star recruit. And so I came in, there was a lot of high expectations the first year. And with my team at Temple at the time, there was already they already had a solid team. Like we had a lot of juniors and seniors, but it was just a lot of hype because Temple was starting to recruit a lot of better players. Um, during that time. When I got there, I came in, passionate for God, but under control, right? Like I wasn't like so super zealous where I'm like trying to talk about Jesus all over campus. Not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I had a type of cool swag, like athlete, type of personality. So I knew like I'm not going to hide Christ at all, but I'm going to always bring it up when God puts it on my heart, or just by
Mm.
being an example, by the things
Yeah.
that I do, the things that I say. So that's pretty much how I came into college. And when I was doing that, I experienced a lot of, I'll just say trials and tribulations came my way because there was people on my team that didn't know how to deal with me or react to me just being different, right? I came in to school, I was a virgin, never drank, never did any drugs or nothing like that. So when I got there, like I was with my team, but then I made sure I separated myself where I was trying to stay away from certain things. I mean, the temptation was
Right.
great. So of course I was interested, there was things that was making me, making my flesh want to do it, but I realized like, nah, like this is not it. So when that stuff began to happen, it got me into so many things that I didn't want to be a part of just by saying no. Like just by being the person that wasn't doing it, I was like an outcast. But it really tested me and it made me
Right.
upset with God. I had a beef because now I'm going through some crazy stuff, with my teammates. And it's like I came here to play basketball. Not did all of this. So I'm like, God, like we supposed to be young adults. Like, why is it so hard for them to just understand, like, nah, don't do this? Because when I was separating myself from the things that they would do, I was now being blamed for other things because it seemed like I was the quiet one trying to mess up their vibe, trying to mess up what they were trying to do. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like, it's like the person that doesn't do anything, you're trying to now make them look bad by what they do. And that wasn't me. But anyway, what happened was, I ended up getting injured, getting hurt. I was trying to dunk on my teammates, got pushed out of the air, and eventually I had to get surgery.
Mm.
Now, when I got surgery, I went to the hospital. None of my teammates, wished me well. And I mean, things are different now as we've gotten older, just in case anybody's watching this. But during that time, I felt like just the immaturity and not understanding how to still relate to somebody that's different than you, even if they are trying to walk righteous in their faith.
Mm.
Those were things that I had to experience, like, just that type of animosity. And when I'm in the hospital, I tell God, you know what? I don't know if I'm gonna trust you anymore. I don't trust you because all the things I'm doing for you, it's
Mm.
now bringing all this backlash. I could not understand it. And so I made that pact with him and I decided from that day forward that I was going to do it my own way because I'm like, man, I
Yeah.
can't take this. Like there was stuff that made me want to transfer from the school. I didn't do that. And I realized all of this was happening because of how much I was just trying to be an example for Christ. So the devil was fighting me hard and using people, right? Using people to test my faith. Like I'm calling my parents constantly. I'm just like, bro, like I can't do this
Hmm.
while I'm playing basketball, right? So I could have easily compromised early on, which I didn't. But when that injury happened to me, that's when I decided I'm gonna do things my way and see how it pans out.
Can you take our listeners a little bit into the background of basketball culture? Uh, Teams. I imagine there's a highly competitive element, not just between teams and other teams, but also amongst players because you're trying to get scouted, you're trying to get contracts, you're ultimately then trying to get drafted. Basketball, people have said, oh, it's somewhat of an individual sport. So I imagine there's an element there that, yeah, there must be an intense competition amongst teammates. But can you take us a little bit behind the curtain of the culture of basketball behind the scenes?
The culture of basketball, man, it is it's dog eat dog, plain and simple. Like people that are good, that have aspirations of being the man, being the guy. Everybody's going hard, with one another. And I mean, it's good, it's healthy when you're trying to compete. But then also, there's a lot of things that you see that happens. I would say more so off the court because when you have a great team or you have people that's just competing, there's nothing wrong with that. Coaches want you to work your butt off. They want to see you have good work ethic and they want to see you getting in the gym, wanting to improve. So you have to want that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so everybody's competing for a spot, from travel ball to high school. That's why you have tryouts from college and to pros. So it never stops. The level just gets higher, the stakes get higher. But then when you look at the basketball culture, I call it the basketball matrix. You have what you do on the court and that's your job. And, everybody has their role and depending on how good you are and what you do, and what you can and can't do, that's pretty much your job description as a basketball player. But then I would say off the court is really where you get to see what the lifestyle is like.
Hmm.
Because I think most people don't understand why so many people struggle with trying to balance being a basketball player and the lifestyle that comes with it. Because there's a lot of things that come at you. Obviously, you got the women, you got, and nowadays with college and NIL and D1, you got agents coming at you. You got so many people trying to, they can see you as a money grab. So you're having to balance all these things and then, partying, wanting to be fly, want to be cool, wanting to have this persona about you and, trying to be good as a basketball player. So you're trying to juggle a lot of things. And I
Yeah.
feel like what most people don't understand is that there are a lot of people that believe in God. There's a lot of athletes, not just basketball players, but there's a lot of pro athletes that believe in God, that's grown up in church, that have grown up in the knowledge of God. But then when they meet the lifestyle that comes with the sport that they play, then that's when they really see, I feel like they actually see how hard it is to maintain both, especially if you're wanting to do right, if you're wanting to live, a life. It might not be perfect. You might not even be a Christian, right? But if you're wanting to do good, you always have, evil or things to tempt you that's following you to get you in, put you in difficult positions. Which is why sometimes we see a lot of great players that will never make it to the NBA, make it to college because
Mm.
of the things that surrounds them off the court. And I feel like it's something that we don't talk about because of basketball, that stuff will handle itself. You train, you get better, you work hard, but it's the off the court stuff that I feel like most people kind of ignore, which is why we
Mm.
see so many issues with people today, where it's mental health, where it's a lot of stress and anxiety, where it's a lot of problems that they deal with because of that.
Friends, we'll get back to my interview with Anthony Lee Jr. in just a moment. Prior to that, however, I want to invite you that if you represent a ministry or an organization or know of a ministry or organization that shares a similar heart to this podcast, would you please refer them to ask@thesowerspod.ca, and I would love to feature them mid-episode. If you are a returning listener, you will know that every episode we feature a ministry or an organization mid-episode. And so if you know of an organization or a ministry that you would like featured that once again has a similar heartbeat to the Sowers, please send these recommendations and referrals to ask@thesowerspod.ca. Once again, that is ask@thesowerspod.ca. And now back to my interview with Anthony. Just to share for the listener that understands a little bit of the NIL, can you describe what the NIL is and its impact on college basketball? And recently they introduced the NIL into football and college football. But what is NIL? And just so our listeners have a better understanding of the increased temptation that comes with that.
So NIL is basically something that was created for players to get paid. I wish that the NIL came about, a couple years earlier, just a few years earlier, because I got out of college and it came like 3 years after. You know what I'm saying? Could have made a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But name, image, and likeness, because a lot of players that get their jerseys sold, they're very popular coming into. It doesn't matter if it's basketball, football, it could be any sport that's NCAA. And players deserve. I feel like they are deserving of getting, um, you know, paid for what they do and what they're able to bring to the school and bring more notoriety and just popularity. So NIL has allowed agents and a lot of brands to go after athletes and pay them for what they're able to do, and scaling their business. Obviously, you don't just get an NIL if you're not good at your sport. So you have to be good at what you do to actually get it. And what it's done is giving players the opportunity to really leverage, their income, and they can, be paid. They can be millionaires at university. Like that wasn't always happening beforehand. there was a lot of things happening under the table where, the coaches or agents would try to pay players, unknowingly, to the NCAA,
Right.
which is why they needed to add something because, a player could get hurt. They could be projected getting picked in the first round, second round of a sport. I'll just use basketball, football. And if they get hurt, a lot of times, you know, they are judged by the injury and not by what they were able to do. So getting paid in college, you're able to get, just things that you're deserving of while you are there in college, which I think is a
Hmm.
great thing. But what it does is it can get a lot of players off focus. So we've also seen the negative side of NIL where people just kind of follow the money and they've lost the meaning of, like, I use the term getting it out the mud, like really working hard, not being spoiled and not being lazy because now when you got money, oh man, I'm getting paid off the court now. I already got this. I already signed on a dotted line, so I'm still getting paid.
Hmm.
So, if you don't want to play me here, or if I gotta really work for it and prove what I'm worth or what I do, I could just go to another school. So you see so many people transferring, which is causing uproar for coaches because they never know. Like, yo, I may have a player for 1 year and then they go to another
Right.
school. So there's pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
But overall, it's to, pay the athlete what they're worth.
And in all of that, I mean, as you're sharing, so much comes to my own mind about, again, as you talked about earlier, the temptations that naturally introduces, both around fame, around money, around notoriety, shoe deals, all these sorts of things. Everyone's wanting the shoe deal. How have you over the years kept Christ at the center, and how has he helped you through it all? And anticipating I'm not anticipating perfection, but what has been the journey?
It's a great question, man, because it's a part of my testimony. How do you keep Christ in the center? Well, first of all, you have to make Jesus Christ your Lord. Like, you're wanting to please him, you're wanting to do right. And not just do right so he can bless you, and open up a door and opportunity and you try to get right for a couple of weeks or a month or whatever, how long it is. No, it's a lifestyle. It's surrendering to him. And I had to find out the hard way because my story, I'll just go back to college. Once I decided to do things my own way, I expected a lot of bad things to happen because I was purposely trying to live the way I wanted to live. Like, I wasn't trying to please God. I would, here and there, like, still go to church and I would talk to God. But in terms of things that was coming my way, now I was allowing, like, okay, I had girls that liked me and I had opportunities to now do whatever I wanted to do. I was taking it. I went to the parties. I was drinking. I was doing all those things. And now when I started to do it, I saw I was getting accepted by my teammates from how things were before, where it was just like, oh man, ain't like, nah, he's corny, he's this, he's that, because I'm not doing what they're doing. Now I am. It's like, oh man, like, we got him type of thing. When I first started to drink, it was a big celebration. It was like, I remember like it was yesterday. Like, I decided to drink Ciroc for the first time. All the players came over to the dorm room, like, Ann's drinking, and I knew in my mind there that, what, I was doing something right the whole time and they got me. But I realized, what, I'm not going back because God, I felt
Mm.
like you failed me. When I was doing things right, all this stuff happening to me and I didn't realize, what James 1, 2, verse 4 says, where it says, dear brothers and sisters, whenever trials and tribulations come, right, have joy. And he wants you to get through it with perseverance, right? Knowing that
Mm.
you can stand the test. I didn't try to follow any of those things. So as I continue to do wrong, like, now I'm playing well. I'm getting along with my teammates. I'm now one of the leading guys on my team where I'm getting recognized for, being one of the go-to players, like the third or fourth option, but I was a big centerpiece because I was playing center. So now I hit a game win in college. I had a big game versus Duke. Any Duke Blue Devils out there know, like,
Yeah.
2012, you know what I'm saying, when we played them. All the fans rushed to the court. We beat Syracuse in the Madison Square Garden. Like, I had a crazy game there and stuff was elevating in my life
Yeah.
on the court. But off the court, I knew I was doing wrong. So I was deceiving myself the whole time because I felt like, you know what? If I'm going to live this life, I'm going to live it all the way. And you know what, God, if you want to stop it, if I'm really doing something wrong, you'll stop it. And so he didn't stop it for like 3 years. So I'm continuing. So now I'm looking at NBA aspirations because now I got scouts coming to my practices, and things like that. And so I was just going along for the ride, neglecting what my real purpose was. So when we talk about being an example for Christ, I think people knew it was something different about me, but still they knew I was participating in everything. So I was very much being a heathen. The times where I felt like, okay, I could talk about Christ, I would, but then around certain people, I wouldn't because I knew I was a hypocrite. I knew I couldn't really talk to my teammates anymore about what Christ is
Mm,
doing in my life because I'm doing what they're doing, you know?
right.
And so basically what happened was I went from Temple and my last year, I decided to transfer to Ohio State, OHIO, right?
Mm,
And man, they recruited me. That recruiting process was insane. It was bananas. Like I can't even tell you. Like if we had enough time, I can go through the stuff that happened. But just get recruited there. They put out the red carpet for me. And I was like the biggest transfer, fifth year transfer at that time because I was one of the top big men in the country. So I had so many people coming after me, how they recruited me, all the different teams, flying in from different places, coming in Maybachs, showing up in my dorm at 12 a.m., sneaking into my Temple Owls arena. We talking about coaches now, because this how crazy the recruiting process gets when they want you. But I felt like I was so on my high horse. I got out of the decision of where to go. I had scouts looking at me. I had different agents talking to me. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't got this far without God. I know I can. I'm right here. This is my last year. I just want to make it to the NBA now. When I got to Ohio State, everything came crashing down. This was my reckoning moment that I had with God, where it was like, no, son, I got something bigger for you. And I realized, not that he realized, he already knew, but I'm going to stop whatever you're wanting, whatever your desires are. I'm going to stop you from getting it because it's going to cause you to lose your soul, right? The purpose of plan I have for you, the gifts that I've given you and music, doing Christian rap, being an example, actually having a heart for kids, actually having a heart for players and athletes, but you're not in the right mind frame to do what I'm actually calling you to do if I allow you to get to that level. So I'm going to stop everything right here. I'm going to just cause, just disruption, confusion. So I went from having a great career at Temple to when I transferred to Ohio State. I mean, people on the TV, like on ESPN, different scouts, different people saying, what is going on with Anthony? Nothing really happened. I just wasn't playing, right? I got to a team where there's a lot of empty promises. And then I'm at a big party school. This is a year when they first introduced the college football playoffs. And Ohio State, the football team won the chip. So I'm there
whoa.
when everything is going on. And so when I saw stuff breaking down, I'm like, God, you really gonna do this to me now? Are you really about to have everything crashing down now when this is my last year, when I'm looking to get drafted, when I need to have certain stats that I was doing at Temple, but now it's just certain things weren't going my way. And it was because God loved me so much that he was not going to allow me to fall into destruction just to gain fame, notoriety, have money, live a life that I want to live, but then my soul and my heart is distant from him. I have people still ask me to this day, how have you never gotten an NBA workout? Like, how did that happen? Especially at that time, how I was playing, how I was good. It wasn't nothing wrong with me mentally. I feel like it was two things. On one hand, God stopped a lot of stuff from happening that I desired and wanted basketball wise because he needed to really sit me down and work on me. And then two, I did a lot of things on my own. And I would say this too, because the scripture talks about giftings comes without repentance. So there's so many people we see that work hard and like they attain certain things, right? They're able to accomplish a lot, right? And that's without repenting. God gives us gifts and abilities. And when they say many are called, but few are chosen, I know that God has called a lot of people, but he understands that there are some people that will just never answer the call because
Mm,
that's why the scripture says it's hard for a rich man to come to Christ, right? It's
mm,
hard for a rich man to give God everything when they have it all. So I feel like God probably knowing me, if I would have done those things, felt like he let me down when I was a freshman, allowed me to get hurt, and now I did everything on my own. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, even if I had the things that I wanted. and
Right.
that would not have been fulfilling purpose. So I know I went on a long way. I can go on and preach
Mhm.
because it's crazy how God works.
Well, I'm wondering if you can take us a little bit on the next leg of the journey. So, as you were talking about there, it wasn't the NBA that was God's future vision. So, just share with us a little bit about where you are now and what you're doing now, because you gave us a little bit of a teaser earlier in the interview. You said, "I'm now doing what I was kind of doing at the very beginning." Well,
Yeah.
how did all that come about, and where are you now, and how's God using you where He has you now?
So basically, what happened after college, obviously went pro, and I would say the first 5 years of pro, I continued in that lifestyle because now I was better. I was better. I'm like, man, I'm not playing in NBA, but I am playing overseas. I'm traveling and playing in beautiful countries. I've played in about 12, 13 countries overseas from Europe and South Africa. And so I was living a life. I continued that same lifestyle, just doing what I wanted to do, pleasing my own flesh while seeing the world, right? But I still felt empty because I knew God was calling me higher and greater. But one, I wasn't ready. And two, I was just upset and angry at him. Because I felt like he let me down again, right? But I realized that what he was doing was trying to shape my character and he was really trying to build me to become who he wanted me to be. It wasn't until last year I got to KW Titans, which is here in Kitchener, Waterloo, Ontario. Um, Before Kitchener, Waterloo, Ontario, I would say 2017, 2018 is when I really fully surrendered. Always known God, always loved God,
Hmm.
but I didn't prove it with my heart. It was just a lot of lip service, right?
Right.
And so that's when I recognized that, okay, I got to really get myself right. And I knew one way I did that was once I found the person, my wife, I let go of all the girls that I was talking to. I had to cut so many people off. I had to like really change my whole life. I had to switch everything up because I got into a crazy situation that could have, really disrupted my future in another way, but God saved me. And, and at the same time brought me a blessing, my wife, like at the same time, simultaneously to try to show his love for me and grace.
Hmm.
So when he did that, I changed my lifestyle up and then got married in 2019. We continued to play together and travel because my wife is a pro basketball player. She recently retired due to our son
Hmm.
last year. But when our son got here, which was 2023, no, sorry, 2024, he got here 2024,
Hmm.
January 19th is when I knew that God was trying to bring me to a place where he wanted me to really fulfill purpose as a basketball player. So I had been playing overseas already for 8 years. And then like going into the end of 2023 while we were pregnant, it was like, okay, God, I want to be I want to be close and I want to be around for the birth. I could still play overseas because I was playing overseas at the time, but we had to make a decision like, okay, let's have the baby here in Canada where my wife is from. Free healthcare, families here, all of those things that's in terms from a support aspect was there. And basically, once we got here, the Lord told me, he said it's going to be worth more than money can buy. Cause I'm already like, okay, this league is good, but they don't pay like they do overseas. They just don't, right? So
Hmm.
I'm making a sacrifice where I am coming here to settle and raise a family, but also continue playing in a sport that I feel like God still wants to use me in.
Right.
So when I got here, started playing well, and I've always been a person that loves to speak and minister. And so God just told me when you get out, start networking and talking to people. And so last year was really a breakthrough point for me where all the things that I've kind of done sporadically over the years, even though I may have been a hypocrite and nobody knew,
Hmm.
like I was talking about God on stages or whatever, kind of living a double life. God pretty much redeemed the time and allowed me to do what I'm doing now to begin to develop here in this area of Canada. Who would have thought? Who would have knew? I'm not
Hmm.
from Canada. I'm from America. I'm from Florida. And with me playing overseas, I knew that, there's language barriers. So some countries I've played in the Middle East, you can't really talk about God. And then it's, to really settle in and do the work that you really want to do. It's
Yeah.
like God opened the door of Canada to be the place. And so it's just amazing how he works. And so I was able to get on the radio. I did Faith and Family Night last year for the first time at the KW Titans Arena. A great turnout. I talked about my testimony. And then I came back this year and I'm playing now currently with the KW Titans, and I did it again. But God has done so much within the last year. We talking about him opening up doors for me to go speak, for me to go rap and minister,
Hmm.
because he allowed music to come back again. Music, which I thought was pretty much dead and dormant. I've gotten connected with a couple of good producers, and now I've been creating music, and now I'm looking at doing something that I feel like is going to be big for Ontario and anybody across the region that's with dealing with Christian organizations. This is my plug too, by the way. Christian
Yeah.
organizations, people that love the youth, the young people, young adults. I've started something called Light Up the City, which pretty much is something that God gave me last summer to do. And I've completed 2 full concerts where he's allowed me to drop a lot of music, invite different artists with me, and go to different cities to light up the city and do it in a fun, innovative way where people are excited about being a Christian, excited about loving God. But you're going to hear some worship, praise and worship music, and
Hmm.
also Christian rap, but other various things that happen. And we get to have a good time in God. You know what I'm saying? I realized that being in this area, he wanted to use me to spark a passionate fire. And I'm not saying that there aren't churches here that don't have that. But I think with me being an athlete, me having that presence about me, and young people, young adults being drawn to that, but then also seeing this person as a pro athlete and as a Christian, he does music and he reps God like this. Like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to bring this
Yeah.
to my youth. I want to bring this to my young people, invite them to conferences. So God has been literally opening up doors within the last few weeks. I've been getting invited here and there to do certain things. And it's like, this is what you wanted me to do all along.
Wow.
I strayed away. I try to do things my own way, but you gave me the grace and mercy to now do it here. I thought I would never do music again. And it's like, but I've been seasoned and ready. So everything that he's flowing through me, it's like it's been inside of me. Now it's coming out. So I'm just so excited to see what he's going to do, what he's already have done. So that's where I'm at now, man. So it's good to see.
Compare for me playing in Madison Square Garden to sharing your testimony and seeing someone to know Christ.
Man, I feel like a trick question because if I'm keeping it's really
I
not
mean, I'm sure Madison Square Garden was pretty cool.
really not a trick question. As I'm in Madison Square Garden looking around, you hear them doing dun, 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 just all the effects. I mean, packed out crowd, sold out. That was an unbelievable experience. But to have all of that and know that you're not really fulfilling purpose, you're just doing a job for accolades and attention, and knowing that when you can minister and lead somebody to Christ, you're winning a soul that's going to, eventually have eternal life. That's way more satisfying to know because God wanted to use the gift he gave you to then spread the gospel. And I think that's what he's created us all for. So he gifted us for a purpose. This is my mantra. He's gifted us for a purpose to serve others. That's why he's gifted us in all these arenas and everything that we do. When we eventually come to know who Christ is, then that gift will make room for us to spread the gospel. So that's what I believe.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm not trying to in any way say that, playing in Madison Square Garden isn't an amazing gifted experience.
That
There are
was
a lot of
fun.
things, there are a lot of things that I've had the opportunity to do that are really fun. But there's also, I think what you touched on there is the weight of eternal significance, which is the invitation of Christ always and the invitation to share about him with others. I'm wondering if you would, Anthony, a couple of questions I still have. One is, how can listeners pray for basketball players? I heard not long ago that basketball players are really struggling with mental health. I mean, a lot of Gen Z and young people are struggling with mental health, but as you've been talking about all the pressures and competitiveness, how can how can how can our listeners pray for young basketball players, older basketball players, and then how can, let's say there's a someone in a city who has a team like the KW Titans, How would you encourage local Christians to try to support and in any ways try to connect with the players on the team?
Good question. I will say that people could just really pray for ability to understand that God controls everything. God literally controls everything. Whether we are in his will or not, he has the ability to do certain things in our life that will eventually, his plan and purpose is to bring us back to him. And so when scripture talks about, I know the plans that I have for you, sometimes athletes that are trying to do so much to get seen, to get noticed, to try to reach their goals. And when they feel like they've let themselves down, they need to know that God has already planned out their future. But what he's given them the gift to do now is he wants them to work as hard as they can to try to fulfill that goal, but not allow it to be something that they make their God, where they put all their focus in on, as if they don't have anything else in life to offer. Because a lot, when you talk to people, when they don't have good games or when they're not playing, they feel like life is over. Sometimes, like they feel like, what am I doing? Like, I don't have purpose. Like, I've grown up trying to do this game. I'm trying to make waves for myself. And so a lot of times they are stressed. They do have anxiety because they're trying to live up to certain expectations. They're trying to do things that they have already pre-planned in their mind that they were going to do. I know the scripture says that we make our plans, but God directs our steps. And so if anybody that's praying for basketball players, any athlete, praying that they will allow God to direct their steps. Make your plans, but he will direct your steps. Follow your passions, follow your goals, follow your dreams, but don't be so caught up in how you want to do it that you miss out on how God is wanting to do it. Because then you will get disappointed in thinking that it was all about you and how you should achieve it, when God may be very well wanting to do something great in you and what you're doing, but it could be in various ways, right? It could be in another season where you might be going through a drought. That don't mean that you have to quit unless he tells you he has something else for you. But you have to keep going, keep pushing, keep plugging away. And I'm a living example of it. Last year or this past season, I was thinking about not necessarily retiring, but if I should keep going. And if I didn't come back and play this year and use my platform of basketball, I would have missed out on all these speaking opportunities, all these things that have happened because I'm playing basketball, because I'm doing what he's gifted me. And so that's what I say people should pray for.
Just as we close, what advice would you give to young athletes who want to pursue sports at a high level while also staying strong in their faith?
Oh man, I would just pray for any young athlete that's want to pursue a sport, that you just make sure that you are committed. You have to want it for yourself, just first and foremost. God may give you the desire, but now you have to, try to be disciplined. You have to, have good work ethic. You have to want it for yourself, because anything that we get in life, it doesn't just come to us like that. We have to work for it. And if we're working hard at it, then doors will open. And on top of that, if you are a person that believes in Christ and you're wanting to walk in the ways that he has set for you, now you have a whole nother job to do, which is being an example and trying to live right. You're not going to be perfect, right? You're not going to always get it right, but trying to stay on a course where you are trying to please him. And if you don't know, and if you mess up, fall down, get back up, get around believers, get around people that care about your faith journey. And when you get around people that are not believers, be you. You don't have to be corny. You don't have to be fake, but be you. Always represent Christ with love, and he'll do the rest.
And thank you so much for taking the time and joining the Sowers podcast today.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, friends, I'm sure you would agree that there is so much from my conversation with Anthony that could be applied as this episode's action step. This episode was certainly unique. We've never had a professional basketball player on the show before, and so it was a gift to be able to talk to Anthony about the ways in which God has used him to be a sower of the gospel in basketball, in Christian rap, and in now putting on events for people to come and to hear the gospel for the very first time. The thing that I want to focus on in this episode, however, is when Anthony talked about being gifted for a purpose to serve others. And so how has God gifted you? And in the ways that he's gifted you, how has he then invited you to serve others? He says his mantra is that very thing, gifted for a purpose to serve others. And so again, how has God gifted you, and how is he inviting you to serve other people, and through that service become a sower of the gospel in the places you live, work, learn, and play, both through what you say and how you serve and how you act in those environments. Friends, as always, thanks for joining us for this episode and this conversation. You may know this, but we also have all of these conversations on YouTube. And so if you want to view these interviews via video, you can find us on YouTube. And now, friends, I'm going to leave you with a clip from my conversation that will be released next week with the founder and CEO of Faith Tech, James Kelly.
Hearing people say, I feel underutilized with my skills. My favorite story is a friend of mine who works at Google, and she's like, I met with my pastor. Pastors are amazing, right? And she's like, my pastor finds out I work at Google. I was like, oh, that's good. I think that's good, right? She's like, well, then he's like, oh, you work at Google. Can you run PowerPoint on Sunday? Like, that would be really epic for us. And her feedback was, I'll do that. Like, I want to serve my church. I love my church. I want to serve my church. But it just feels like I'm deploying a product for 1 billion people tomorrow is kind of the mentality. Her comment was hilarious. She said, could I build a PowerPoint that runs all of them across the city on Sunday? Like, could we automate